everybody, in this video I'm going to be making some Christmas cards that are really simple and mostly using a lot of leftovers and scraps from other projects. Now, I don't want to say this is a tutorial as such. I'm doing it more in the style of like a journal with me, except I'm not journaling, I'm crafting. So it's a craft with me, just is the same sort of structure as a journal with me. And maybe even if you don't make Christmas cards, you might be able to get some ideas or something to use in your own journaling and Christmas scrapbooking and all that kind of thing. So before I start making the actual cards, firstly I'm showing you what kind of stuff I have to work with. But the main leftover I had this year was loads and loads of scraps of ribbon. Some of you may know where I did my Christmas journals this year for my Etsy shop. I added this like add-on option of having ribbon up the spine, which looked lovely if I do say so myself, and was very popular, but it meant I had so many leftover bits of ribbon to use and I didn't want to throw them away, so I thought let's make a ton of bows. So I'm doing different methods to make bows here. This is the method where you use a fork. I'm not going to explain it in detail because there's so many videos out there that show you how to do this. Hopefully you can see it's very simple to do. You do need slightly longer pieces of ribbon, I find, to do this method. I'm going to show you another one I do for when there are shorter pieces. I also have this bow making fork. Actually, it's my mum's, but I stole it. That is better to do with wider pieces of ribbon because the wider ones won't work on a normal dinner fork. Maybe if you have like a one of those large barbecue forks or meat forks or something, those would work nicely. But my favourite one to do with the fork is actually a double bow, which is you just wrap it round an extra time before you thread it through the middle, and then you get a cute little double bow. And I think these look super cute. I'm going to show you a comparison there of the single versus the double. Now, the one thing about the fork making bows is you need a decent length of ribbon to do them, otherwise it's really difficult to do it. So like if you have anything shorter than say about 6 inches, then I use the sewing or stitching method, which you kind of make your ribbon into the shape of those charity ribbons, push the back into the middle, sew around the middle a few times, stitching through and then wrapping it around the whole thing and stitching it, pulling it nice and tight and stitching it through the back. I know I haven't explained that very well. There might have been a video where I fully explained how to do this. I can't remember. If I can find it, I will link it. But I will do a search and find some videos where people explain these things much better than I can. This is also good for wide ribbon if you haven't got a wide fork to use, or it's too short to use for the fork method. And it also makes a slightly different shape of bow, which I quite like. So I'm just showing you here what it looks like when you use a slightly wider piece of ribbon as well. And I sat there and I thought, not even an hour, I don't think, to make loads of these. And often, like where I'd made a fork one and there was a bit left over, I put that in a separate box just to know to make a stitching one with that. And then I thought I would try using this. These are the music page holder things that many people use for their journals. And I thought, as my content is mostly journaling, let's see if we can make a bow with that. And you can. It's a little bit faffy, but it does work. And then I thought, let's see if we can make a double bow with that. And my piece of ribbon wasn't quite long enough, but I just about managed it. And yeah, it does look kind of cute. So if you are a journaler, you have one of these bookmark things, then, you know, you can make it work. And some of these bigger ones I've made, I will probably use for when I wrap gifts later in the month. Oh, and I'm lastly showing you here, when you do the stitching trick, if you are doing it with ribbon that has a pattern or words on, start with it upside down and then it will be the right way around when you stitch it. Again, I'm sorry I don't explain this in the best way. Tutorials really aren't my kind of thing, especially if I'm doing a voiceover. If I was doing it in real time, I'd probably be better at it. But I will, as I said, try and link some videos that show it better than I can on how to do it if you need to see those. So let's actually start assembling some cards, shall we? Here is a big pile of scraps. Again, these are leftovers mostly from making the Christmas journals, and scraps from previous years as well. As I said, I am making really simple cards. This first one is probably one of the most simple. So I have used my 2-inch circle cutter to punch out 3 circles. I'm going to go around each of them with some gold metallic ink. And that wasn't showing up very well, so I also took a gold gel pen to go make just a doodly line around each one of the circles. My gel pen was not behaving very well. Sometimes these gel pens, like, they're great when you first buy them, but there's plenty of ink in them, but they stop working after a while. I found a weird trick. Leave it uncapped for a few hours and then it seems to work. It's like the opposite of what you think you should do, but it seems to work. Now, I will not take responsibility if it doesn't work for you. I'm just like, maybe try it on a pen that was cheap and you don't care about so much, but it did work for me. Anyway, I have glued those down, as you can see, and then using another shiny metallic gel pen to do little lines to be like the string that is holding the baubles, like on a Christmas tree or something. And here I will add some of my pre-made bows on each one of the baubles. For bows, sticking them down, I like to use glue dots. Often you have to sort of fold the glue dot a little bit so there's nothing sticky showing up on the card, but I do find it's the best thing to stick on bows, unless you want to start fiddling around with, you know, like more liquid adhesives that's going to take ages and ages to dry. For pretty much all the sentiments I add to cards in this video, I'm using this vellum pad, which I picked up from, I think it was the Range, but I might be wrong on that. So if I can find a link, I will add it, but no promises. So simple little sentiment there. When I stick vellum down, I've said this before, vellum is a pain to stick to things because if you use any sort of liquid adhesive, even a glue stick, it will warp and buckle and you'll get horrible little lines in it. And then if you use any tape, you can see through it. So what I do is I use red line tape, very, very thin red line tape, and put it in a place where it is less likely to be seen. So on that one, it was fine because most of it was gold colored. It was easy to hide. But on some other ones, I will just put it behind like a word or something. So if you look closely, yes, you can see it, but it's at least disguised a little bit. Anyway, to finish off that card and stick it onto a card blank, I didn't want just the craft background of the card blank. So as you saw, I did a border with some patterned washi tape, and then you have a cute little something picking up from behind the card. When I use washi tape, as I am doing right now as well, I will always score it down as well, because I know from experience that washi tape does not last forever. It does not stick forever, but it does have more of a chance if you use a bone folder or whatever you like to use to score it down. So this card is another very simple one. I've made a card like this almost every year for years. Cut out 3 square or rectangle shapes of scraps. I've used some slim glitter washi tape, but you can also use ribbon. That looks cute too, to make it look like there's a ribbon around the little gift, the wrapped gift. With these ones, I added really, really tiny little corners to the edges, like so small that a corner punch would have been too much, but I thought it looked too harsh with the pointed edges. Then sticking them down, layering them like so that the one at the top is also the one at the back, and then adding one of my little pre-made bows to each one of them, and you've got a cute little pile of presents. I've also made these in the past where I have, as I said, added ribbon, also stitched around the edges. Those look super cute too, but also obviously take a little more time. And again with this one, I wanted something just exciting peeking out from behind the base, so I have used this glittery blue washi tape. And this really needed scoring because glitter tape is, as I'm sure many of you will know, not the stickiest substance on earth. Now you might be thinking at this point that these cards are missing, you know, certain finishing touches. And that's because if I'm going to add little, you know, pearls, gems, Nuvo drops, anything like that, I tend to do it in batches, so I'll make 3 or 4 cards and then go through and add all those finishing touches once I have a bunch made. So that is what you will see soon enough. This card is the first I made using tags, like creating tags out of scraps. I love tags in all of my crafts and journaling, so there's going to be a lot of tag cards in this video, but I love them. I love them so much. What can I say? For this one, I'm not using a plain background, one from one of these paper pads, which I know for a fact were from the works, but they do not have anything like that this year. I have looked. I was originally going to have the 3 tags with a different vellum sentiment on each tag, And then I changed my mind and thought that doesn't really work for that background paper. We need something a bit more simple. Um, I'm using Distress Oxide to colour those hole reinforcers, and then some really, really thick twine to go through each tag, because it works, I think, quite well with the kind of rustic look of the background. This actually might be one of my favourite cards that I made in this video. I really, really like that sort of Christmas aesthetic. I love traditional red, green, gold, don't get me wrong, but that sort of thing where it's like in between modern and traditional and just like really rustic and earthy, and I I I love it. What can I say? So to add to that, I thought some roughing around the edges with a distress tool would go really nicely with this card. And then of course I'm going to add one of my pre-made bows to this one. I decided, I think I tried out a few, and then but I did settle on using that one. I think it says Merry Christmas on it in the silver. Oh, and as you may have just seen, when I add twine to a card in this way, I will bring it over the top or the side or however it's working on the card, stick it down with double-sided tape, just not taking the back layer off. Washi tape is not sticky enough to keep twine down. Maybe if it's really, really thin string or like embroidery thread it will, but I think double-sided tape is the most reliable thing to use in this situation. I did a little just simple doodly black border around each tag with a thin nib. Thin nib? That's not a thing. With a gel pen. They were getting a little bit lost in the background. And then you saw I stuck a vellum sentiment to a scrap of matching paper and stuck it on the tags like so. And as I said, that's one of my favourite cards, I think. But I kind of made a few in that sort of same colour style as well. I had already cut out that Merry Christmas from the vellum sentiments pad, and I was trying to use these things. I had made these layered stitched glitter banner things for the journals and then never ended up using them, so I was trying to include those, but I never actually managed it. So guess what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna make a tag, obviously. And for making my tags, I always use my tag punch board. I know some of you might think that is ridiculous because it's a simple shape. Why do you need a tool just to create tags? I agree with you. It is sort of like a luxury, but I make tags all the time and I'm so bad at just doing them freehand, just eyeballing them. And if I draw them by hand, they're not even, and it makes it easier for me. Again, it's a luxury thing. I don't need it. There are plenty of ways to make tags without it, but I use it enough so it's worth it. So I'll link it if you're interested. Don't get confused because there is a tag punch board and a tab punch board. And if you're in the UK, then on the Amazon listing, they are both under the same listing. So yeah, don't get confused. Here I am, as I mentioned before, adding those finishing touches to the cards I'd already made, mostly using some Nuvo drops, also some enamel dots as well. Where I put an enamel dot in the center of a bow, I will add a strong adhesive such as glossy accents. I did go back to that first card as well and add a red Nuvo drop to the center of each bow because it looks cute. You'll see it at the end. And some of these cute little star gems as well. I use loads and loads of these. But as with many craft supplies, over time they have lost their stickiness, so I am adding a tiny, tiny, tiny little drop of glossy accents to keep them stuck down. That's one of the things with craft supplies. If you hoard them, they do not last forever. Sticky things like gems, washi tape loses its stickiness, so use things, don't hoard them, because you know I have more and more things these days which you have to take an extra step with because it has, you know, it's gone off. It's not gone off, but you know what I mean. So that was the first batch done, and now I'm going to start another one. Usually I've done these in sessions, so I probably did that first one and then went and did something else for a bit, you know, boring household things that you have to do, like, I don't know, laundry, cook dinner, yawn. This one is very similar to a previous one in that I am cutting out squares and rectangles from scraps to make them look like gifts, but with these ones I'm backing each one on a piece of scrap foam I found on my desk. Just adds a little bit of dimension to the card, I think, and makes them look a little bit more special. I don't know. And then washi tape at the bottom, it just needed a little something there. With the foam, I'm using some tacky glue to stick these down, and then I also think I put something heavy on them as well to encourage them to stick down. I thought it might look cute on this one with the sentiment to make it look like it was stuck down with a piece of washi, just like, you know, something up on a notice board makes it just look a little bit more casual and kind of, I can't think of what the word I want there is. But yes, and then I will stick some bows on as well because I made so many bows that I had to use as many as possible, and I still have so many leftovers. So if you're thinking about buying one of my Christmas journals next year, there might be some bows involved. For the next couple of cards I make, I really wanted to utilize washi tape a little bit. I had off screen tried making a washi tape Christmas tree, but it looked naff and I didn't like it at all, so you're not going to see that. I know other people have done it and made it work really nicely, but I couldn't make it work, so I am simply doing little washi banner type things, you know, cutting the little flag shape into the end of them and making sort of a little strip of them there as one little area of interest for the card next to the main elements. The main element on this one is going to be, surprise, surprise, it's a tag. I was going to have just the one tag. Oh, to make it more interesting, I'm adding a faux stitched border with the gold gel pen and also going around the hole, the punched hole, just because I didn't want to use the hole reinforcers for every single tag I made. I wanted to try something a little bit different with each one. Now I was going to just have the one tag, but then I was going through this other vellum paper pad of sentiments, which that was from the works, but it was last year. And I thought I could make a tag out of that and then layer it onto the other tag, and then that will look super cute. And instead of putting twine on this one, I'm using a gold brad to put through the punched holes. Using my gold gel pen, I will make the twine or whatever, like the impression of twine and a bow to have the tags hanging sort of from the top of the card, and also then the white gel pen to make a faux stitched border. This is a thing I do on so many cards, so many projects, so many journal spreads, but I'm of the opinion if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I like the effect, so I like to do it all the time. I know that some of you out there might find the idea of like freehand drawing straight down onto your card or straight down onto your project a little bit intimidating, especially with something like a gel pen where you can't erase it. But all I can say is maybe practice a little bit if you are finding it intimidating. With the stitched borders, I promise you it's so easy. Like, it does not have to be a straight line. You can't notice if it isn't a straight line, so just don't overthink it, don't worry about it. And then for doing like the fake bows and like twine and things for baubles and tags, again, if you're feeling intimidated, just give it a little practice. On this card, for example, I don't think it looks very good, but it gives you the impression of what it's supposed to be, and I don't think anyone's going to be looking at the card in that much detail and then going, "Oh, well, she messed that up, didn't she?" And if they do think that, then they're not getting a card next year. So same basic principle with this card as the previous one, some washi banners, and then I added a bauble instead of a tag. I was just going to have the one, but then I know I'm making simple cards, but it was too plain and simple for my taste. So I said, let's make one bauble, three baubles, and I found this circular vellum with love sentiment, and we'll make a bauble out of that. And then to make it a bit more uneven, I did a 1-inch punch as well. And oh look, there's the back of my head. It is not a Ms. Paperlover video unless you get a little snippet of my frizzy hair. And then it was time to do the finishing touches to this batch of 3. I think I mostly add Nuvo drops to this batch. I was really struggling there with my silver. Again, Nuvo drops are another thing. They do not last forever, especially the metallic colours. I don't know what it is, but the metallics are the worst for drying out over time. My silver one is pretty much dead now, but can I find it anywhere? Like, nowhere has it in stock. I don't know why, but anyway. Some of the colours I'm using are like the gold, the silver, some of the glitter ones. There's a silver glitter and a gold glitter. I will have all the names of them down in the description box and links where available, but I'll at least put the names, so if you're interested you can find them yourself if I can't find a link. Okay, now time for the last little batch of three cards, I think. I'm not sure. I made quite a few. With this one, I'd come across this paper, which I thought would look great if it just sort of looked like you were adding more decorations to the garland at the top. So I punched out with a 1-inch circle punch 5 different, baubles, some glittery ones and just some pattern ones. On the pattern ones, I used this Nuvo glitter marker to make them shine a little bit more. Used a silver and then a blue gel pen to add the twine or string that they're dangling from. And then I thought, you know what would really, really finish this off is if I use the glossy accents for what they're actually intended for and make these baubles more 3D. So that's what I'm doing there with the glossy accents, kind of treating it as a really, really massive Nuvo drop sort of thing. And once they're dry, they do look super cute. One thing you want to do if you're doing this is once you have put down that layer of glossy accents, you want to take a little pin or a needle and just pop any of the larger bubbles that you can see. You might get some smaller ones, might bother some people, doesn't bother me, but I do try at least pop the slightly larger ones. Just in case any of you are thinking it, there are some cards that I don't add a sentiment to the front, just because I don't think it's necessary that every single greeting card has to have a sentiment in the front, because you're probably going to write something on the inside of it anyway. So sometimes it's just nice to have something plain and pretty that doesn't necessarily say Happy Christmas or whatever. So I only do it with 1 or 2, but I'm just saying in case you're wondering, it's just because I don't always think it's necessary. With this card, I had this scrap and I punched out a circle from it and thought, oh, have I ruined it? And I was like, wait, no, let's make a feature of the circle that I've punched out. So I punched some silver glitter card in the same size and put it in that circle shape, and I will add something to that in a second. But before that, let's have some tags, shall we? Why not? Doing the same thing as I've done before, and I used a tiny, tiny little white brad to put those 3 bits together. And also I found these really pretty snowflake stickers that I've had for, I don't know, 400 years, and put that on the base tag because, yeah, it looked really cute, I thought. So on that sort of top thing that you could say kind of looks like a moon or a star or whatever, I added a 3D pearl snowflake because I wanted something 3D, and then I will go over that with the glossy accents as well, so that like 3D snowflake is kind of encased in those glossy accents that will obviously dry hard and clear. And I added many, many, many of those shiny stars because I love them. Oh, in terms of card blanks and card bases, I probably should have said this right near the beginning. As some of the bases I just use patterned paper or sometimes plain white or plain craft. Occasionally I will do it straight onto the card base. With the planes, they're usually scraps, but I do have piles and piles of craft and white card lying around for shop purposes and personal crafting too. And then with the card blanks, I happen to have a lot lying around because I was on the Trimcraft design team for like two and a bit years. So I still have many, many leftovers from that time, and I probably bought some as well. But obviously, if you don't have card bases, you can make them. They're very, very easy. Measure to size and fold it in half. That's all there is to it. But I just thought I would explain, what I'm using. And sometimes if I've made the base that I'm going to stick on the card blank a certain size that's a bit different, I'll actually just stick it on the card blank and then cut the excess off. It's much easier than having to worry about measuring and stuff. With this card, I've pretty much finished it, but it's not much different from any of the others I've made. Once I got those Nuvo glitter markers out, because I had forgotten about them before now, I used them on quite a lot of things. And another thing I've done, and you'll see this at the end when I show the finished products, is after I've stuck it down on a card base, where there's an edge sticking out, I like to add a little something to that. So with the ones at the beginning, you saw I used the washi tape in the background. On this one and many others, I've done a faux stitched border. On some others, I just did like some little dots and circles. You'll see. Obviously, you can leave them blank if you want to, but I am a bit extra as a person. Or at least in my creating, I'm not very good at leaving blank spaces. And here we are. I'm going to show you every single card I made, and there's also 3 that I didn't film because I did them very late at night already. I can't remember, but that you'll see those at the end. And I think they might be some of my favourites as well. But they were made all in pretty much the same way. So there we go. That is it for this video. You can see on this one where I've added dots to the blank edges just for a little something. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed watching. Maybe you got some ideas, some inspiration, even if you don't make Christmas cards, maybe for your Christmas journaling or scrapbooking or whatever it is that you do. That is going to be pretty much it from me. As I said, I will leave various links and information in the description box. Please like this video, subscribe if you haven't already. And I think that's all the things I have to say. What have I left out? I've probably left out something. Oh, I know. Let me know in the comments which card was your favourite, and tell me as well about your Christmas cards and your Christmas crafting this year. I would love to hear about it. And then, yeah, that is going to be it for me. Thank you so much again. I am now going. Bye bye!